The Haunting of Hollow Grove. Chapter 1: The Old House. Emma Thompson had always been fascinated by the remnants of history. The crumbling mansion at the edge of Hollow Grove was no exception. With its once grand architecture now cloaked in decay, the house stood as a forgotten relic of a bygone era. Emma's heart raced with excitement as she approached the property, her footsteps crunching over fallen leaves and twigs. The real estate agent, Mr. Collins, met her at the gate, his face shadowed by a wide-brimmed hat. "M.S. Thompson," he said, offering a hesitant smile, "I should warn you the Hollow Grove house has a reputation. People say it's haunted." Emma waved his concerns away. "I appreciate the warning, but I'm not superstitious. This place has so much potential." As she stepped inside, the creaking floorboards and the musty scent of mildew greeted her. Dust motes floated in the shafts of sunlight piercing through broken windows. Emma's footsteps echoed eerily as she wandered through the empty rooms. The grandeur of the past was visible in the intricate woodwork and faded wallpaper, but the house's splendor had long since faded. Upstairs, she discovered a small room with a solitary window overlooking the overgrown garden. It seemed ideal for her art studio. Yet, as she stood there, she felt an inexplicable chill and a sense of being watched. She shook off the discomfort, attributing it to the house's long abandonment. Chapter 2: The Neighbors' Stories. Emma settled into the house, starting with minor repairs and cleaning. Her new neighbors, the Millers, were the first to approach her. They were an older couple, warm but with an underlying air of caution. "Welcome to the neighborhood, Mrs. Miller said, her voice tinged with worry. "We've heard you're fixing up the old place." Emma nodded. "Yes, I'm making it my own." Mr. Miller leaned in, lowering his voice. "You should know strange things happen in that house. Kids around here dare each other to spend the night. No one ever does." Emma laughed off their concern. "I've lived in old houses before. I'm sure it's just local folklore." Despite her reassurances, Emma found herself increasingly unsettled. She caught glimpses of shadows moving out of the corner of her eye. One day, a package arrived at her door, marked with no return address. Inside was an old, tarnished key and a note reading, "For the secrets hidden deep." Emma was intrigued, but decided to keep the key for later. The Miller's warning lingered in her mind, adding to the growing unease she felt in the house. Chapter 3: The Whispers Grow Louder. That night, Emma lay in bed, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling from the day. The house groaned and settled around her, its sounds echoing in the silence. Just as she was about to drift off, a soft, whispering voice filled the darkness. It was faint but distinct, coming from the adjacent room. Emma's heart pounded as she crept out of bed, her breath visible in the cold air. The whispers grew louder, more urgent, leading her to the door of the room next door. She pushed it open to find an empty space bathed in moonlight. The room was still, except for a cold draft that made her shiver. She convinced herself it was just the wind, but the unsettling whispers continued, invading her dreams. The next morning, Emma woke to find crimson stains on her hands. She had no memory of how they got there, but they looked like fresh blood. Panic gnawed at her as she tried to wash the stains away, but the marks remained stubbornly. Her resolve to ignore the house's oddities was beginning to wane. Chapter 4: The Portrait and the Investigation. As Emma began renovations, she stumbled upon a hidden panel behind a crumbling bookshelf in the living room. Behind it was an old portrait of a family, mother, father, and 2 children. Their eyes seemed to follow her, and an uneasy feeling settled in her gut. Determined to uncover more about the family, Emma consulted Mr. Collins. His face grew somber. "The portrait is a relic from before the house was abandoned. The family vanished without a trace years ago. Some say they were taken by the house itself." Emma's curiosity led her to local archives, where she found incomplete and fragmented records about the family. The mystery of their disappearance was buried under layers of time and whispers of dark rumors. The portrait's eyes seemed to watch her every move, deepening the house's eerie atmosphere. She also interviewed longtime residents, piecing together fragmented stories. A neighbor mentioned hearing screams in the night and seeing strange figures in the windows. Another spoke of eerie occurrences during the family's disappearance. Each account added a layer of unease to the house's history. Emma met Tom Brooks, a local historian and researcher who was intrigued by her findings. Together, they delved deeper into the archives, discovering hints of occult practices connected to Jonathan Holloway. Their research led them to an old journal and local myths about Hollow Grove's dark past. Chapter 5: The House's Secrets. Emma's encounters with the supernatural grew more intense. Shadows flitted across her vision, and voices whispered through the empty hallways. Cold spots appeared unexpectedly, making her breath fog up in the air. Objects seemed to move on their own, as though unseen hands were playing tricks on her. One evening, while cleaning the basement, Emma uncovered a hidden door behind a stack of old crates. It led to a narrow, winding staircase descending into darkness. The air grew colder with each step. At the bottom, she found a candlelit chamber filled with strange symbols scrawled on the walls in what looked like dried blood. The room exuded a palpable malevolence. Emma felt a weight on her chest, and tortured whispers filled her ears. The symbols seemed to pulse with a dark energy, and a sense of dread overwhelmed her. She stumbled back up the stairs, slamming the hidden door shut behind her, her mind reeling from the encounter. Emma decided to investigate further. She discovered an old journal hidden behind a loose brick in the fireplace. The journal belonged to Jonathan Holloway, detailing his descent into madness and his dark practices. The entry spoke of pacts with otherworldly entities and the sacrifice of innocent lives to maintain his power. Emma felt a cold sweat as she read the final entries, which described the house as a prison for the souls of those trapped within. Chapter 6: The Struggle and the Ally. Desperate for answers, Emma reached out to Mrs. Greaves, a local historian with knowledge of the house's dark past. They met in a small cafe, the historian's expression serious as she listened to Emma's account. The house was once owned by a man named Jonathan Holloway. Mrs. Greaves began. He was rumored to practice dark rituals. The family in the portrait, his wife and children, disappeared mysteriously. She paused, her gaze piercing. Holloway was said to have made a pact with something sinister. The house itself became a vessel for that evil, feeding on the souls of those who entered. Emma's blood ran cold. So the house, it's alive. It's been trapping people. Mrs. Greaves nodded gravely. The house is a vessel of darkness. It absorbs the souls of its inhabitants, turning them into its servants. Armed with this knowledge, Emma decided to confront the malevolent force directly. She sought advice from local paranormal experts and consulted a medium, Sarah Lee, who had experience with exorcisms and spiritual cleansings. Sarah performed a ritual to cleanse the house using ancient incantations and protective symbols. However, each attempt seemed to only anger the entity further. The malevolent force retaliated by intensifying its haunting. Objects flew across rooms, and a thick, oppressive darkness settled over the house. Emma grew increasingly desperate. Tom Brooks, having developed a close bond with Emma, decided to stay and help. He brought along his own set of tools, historical texts, and protective charms, and provided emotional support during the escalating hauntings. Chapter 7: The Final Confrontation. Determined to escape the house's malevolent grip, Emma began packing her belongings. The house fought back with renewed fury. Doors slammed shut with deafening bangs, and the temperature plummeted. The whispers became anguished wails, echoing through the corridors. In a final, desperate bid to escape, Emma made her way to the basement. The shadows thickened, coalescing into a spectral figure, Jonathan Holloway. His eyes were hollow, and his face twisted in eternal agony. "You cannot leave," he rasped, his voice echoing with the torment of the damned. "You are mine now." Emma's heart raced. She grabbed a metal rod and swung it at the figure, but it passed through him as if he was smoke. The shadows surged, pulling her towards the symbols on the walls. In a burst of desperation, Emma overturned the candle holders, setting the room ablaze. The flames roared, consuming the dark symbols and filling the room with blinding light. The house trembled violently as the inferno consumed the basement. Emma staggered out, narrowly escaping the fiery destruction. Chapter 8: The Aftermath and Reflection. Emma watched from a safe distance as the mansion burned. The fire purged the darkness that had haunted her, reducing the house to ruins. The townspeople spoke of the house as a place of legend and ruin, its sinister reputation now silenced by the flames. Emma relocated far away, seeking solace in a new beginning. She found a charming cottage in a small town, surrounded by friendly neighbors and peaceful landscapes. But the shadows of Hollow Grove followed her into her dreams. She often awoke in cold sweat, haunted by the whispering voices and the spectral figure of Jonathan Holloway. Despite her efforts to rebuild her life, the chilling reminder of the house's evil remained. She struggled with anxiety and sleepless nights, the echoes of her experiences haunting her every moment. Emma began to document her experiences in a journal, hoping to make sense of her ordeal and help others who might face similar horrors. Tom Brooks continued to be a source of support, helping her cope with her trauma and encouraging her to share her story. Their friendship deepened as they worked together on research related to supernatural phenomena, using their combined knowledge to assist others in distress. In her new town, Emma discovered that the story of Hollow Grove had become a local legend, a tale told around campfires and whispered among the locals. Emma's experiences became part of the folklore, a chilling reminder of the dangers that lie beyond the veil of the known. Epilogue: the legend lives on. Years passed, and the ruins of Hollow Grove were eventually overgrown by nature. The story of the mansion became a cautionary tale, a warning to those who dared to trespass into the realm of the unknown. Emma Thompson lived out her days in peace, but the shadows of Hollow Grove never entirely faded from her life. Her journal, published posthumously, detailed her harrowing experiences and the dark secrets of the house. It became a source of both fascination and fear for readers, cementing the legend of Hollow Grove as one of the most chilling ghost stories of the age. The haunting of Hollow Grove had ended, but its legend lived on, a spectral echo of the malevolent force that once lurked in the shadows. The tale served as a reminder of the darkness that can dwell within the confines of history and the price one might pay for delving too deeply into its secrets.